Welcome, everybody. I'm Renee. We are going to start here in a little bit, but I wanted to make a quick announcement. I wanted to do something that we might make a tradition if it works out. Let's see. So I want to do a moment of collective action. So how many of you guys are tired of ticket scalpers and selling tickets that gouge prices for the people that want to come to your shows? Is everybody? Okay. Well, the National Independent Venue Association has put out a survey, or not a survey, it's a letter to Congress, and they're asking artists, and if you're an artist, there's another way, if you're not an artist, there's another way to do it as well, but artists to please sign this letter to Congress so that, because they have some traction with the federal government to fix the ticks. So you might see a QR code around. There's about 4 of them around on the tables here. So I want everybody to take this moment, 5 or 10 minutes here before we get started, and find one of those QR codes. There's one on the bar in the corner. There's one on the table in the corner over here. I think we've got some on the podium right here as well. Take that QR code. It takes 2 seconds to write your name, send a letter to Congress. Let's do it because we're a grassroots organization and we want to make a difference today. So please take 5 minutes to fix the ticks. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right, y'all. Okay, first off, I want to ask, how many people have never been to the lollipop shop before? Okay, you see how cool it is? Look at what they've done. Let's keep coming, all right? And the food, if you didn't have the food, it's amazing. So belly up to that. And we are always incredibly grateful to the venues that host us. They put up with a lot because, have you met us? We're going to say just a couple of quick things and then get the panel on up here. We are doing a lot right now. We're redesigning our website. We're preparing for the next Echo Fund. We are growing our membership. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, well, there's 2 things. One is a street music program that we're going to be putting together to get musicians paid to perform all over the city. Minimum union standards, but you should get paid what you're worth. So doing that, also techs need to get paid. And so we're working with corporate leaders and the city and the travel industry to make sure that we're building out an amazing program. We're doing it in Peabot plazas around the city that include Montavilla, who's here with us, and a lot of them downtown to try and bring people back into the city. That's only one of the places that are non-venue potential revenue opportunities for performers and techs. We want to exploit those. There are, through civic life, through parks, through Venture Portland, all the business districts, everybody has events and they're all like, oh, we'd love to have music. We are creating a way for this community to come to meet them so that we can find those paying opportunities. Because otherwise, somebody's got a budget for music and they hire their brother-in-law who plays a little guitar, And there's too much music in this town to put up with that. The people that are going to be in our performing act directory are our members, our paying members. Members right now, working musician members, are $25 a year. Renee will give you the bad news about how that price is going up. So you should buy now to get a piece of it. But what we want to do is get this musical offering in a way that's accessible to non-music people to make sure that musicians are out there getting paid and are able to create a sustainable living for themselves. So that's a big one. What else am I supposed to be talking about? No, okay, here, there's Renee.
So the performer directory, what I'm asking, or what she's talking about is a ton of opportunities that you can get by being part of it. So it's a centralized directory for all of Portland. So one of the people that we've been talking to about that's been looking at, or that's interested in the directory, is the Rose Festival coming up this summer. And those opportunities are going to be booking in the next month or so, if they're not already. So in the next couple weeks, we plan to launch this directory. So if you're a member, you can be part of this directory. Again, only $25 a year, and this is only one of the benefits. So if you're not signed up, there's a QR code over there. You can sign up tonight. We'll give you a little nice free fanny pack if you sign up tonight. Just show me your confirmation or whatever. But even better than fanny packs are gig opportunities. So please sign up. Look out for emails about the launch in the next few weeks for this directory. I can't believe it's finally coming out. And I think it's going to be really exciting. So be a part of it. Be some of the first people to be a part of it. So the only other thing I was going to say, two things actually. If you are a member already, we want to hear, we want you to dote on us. So essentially, we have little pieces of paper everywhere around the bar near the QR code that, sorry, did not work, but you guys were very creative on getting around that and figuring it out, so thank you. But there's little pieces of paper that say, why are you a MusicPortland member? And look, somebody's holding them up right over there in the corner. And so there are also pens around if they haven't been stolen by now. So please write down just a quote from you. Please put your name if you'd like to be credited. We might put it on the website. We just want people to talk about why they are a member, and we want to get that out there because, frankly, we're hoping you're telling people next to you every day anyway. So yes, please share the love. And there is a little picture over there in the corner of the bar. Put that in that picture when you're done filling it out. So one more thing, we have tons of events this month. On March 11th, this coming Monday, we have accounting office hours, and this is a Zoom event. You have to RSVP to it. You have to be a member. Once again, if you have tax questions right now, this is the time to get them answered for free if you're a member. So on March 11th, Monday, please check that out. We also have studio production meetups on March 19th, Tuesday. That's coming up. On March 22nd, we have Shane Shapiro. He's an international advocate, Music Cities advocate, coming to promote his book. And the book basically is a great basis for what we promote, or what we are always working on with MusicPortland, and proving to the city how much we are worth as a music industry. So come out to that. That's Friday, March 22nd. Check out our website. We've got all our events up there, and you'll start to see that these are recurring as well. So thanks again for coming tonight, and I'm going to pass it back to Mara, and stick around for the panel.
Yeah, that can go back in there. If I can get our panelists to come up on stage. As they're coming, maybe I'll talk about them. Who's going to make it first? Okay, Elizabeth, home turf, making it first. Elizabeth Elder. Elizabeth Elder not only created this incredible space, but founded Lose Your Mind Fest, how many years ago?
10.
10 years ago. So it's old enough to know better. Christina Fuller is here with Waterfront Blues Festival. That is 36th year, is that right?
37.
37? Wow, but you don't look over 36, so it's good. Zale, of course, with Pickathon, who had a big week. And I don't know how the entire city didn't just go, oh, when everybody let their breath out, because I know there were so many people just waiting to hear.
Thank you for testifying. That was super awesome.
Sure. I'll talk anywhere. And then Neil Mattson, the amazing Neil Mattson, who has created the Montavilla Jazz Festival and a real community that is based on local excellence. How many years you got?
This will be year 11.
Year 11.
Yep.
Okay, so these are not toddlers up here. These are real people that are doing real stuff. So I have some questions to ask of you, and as those of you that have been to these things, it's not strict. I am kind, and if a conversation seems to be wanting to go in a direction, let's follow it. So first of all, I kind of answered this. When did your festival begin? For each of you, quickly, what was your original primary sort of vision, and how has it changed over time? Let's start with Neil down at that end.
First of all, just would like to thank Music Portland, Mira, Renee, all y'all for being here. Super exciting to get to share. If you started a music festival, you're a little bit nuts. So 11 years ago, 2014, myself and 3 other people started the Montavilla Jazz Festival. And the idea, the impetus was, actually it's a fairly concise origin story. One of our very important local jazz clubs called Ivory's closed in 2014, or at the end of 2013. And it is a little bit like last year when, this last October when 1905 closed. The scene was kind of in disarray, and artists were going everywhere and trying to find new places to play and to make gigs. And so, and there was this thing that happened called the Portland Jazz Co-op. And it was basically a Facebook group, and it was all these musicians, these jazz musicians in Portland, looking for places to play because of the impact of one venue closing on the scene. And then that one thing led to another, some networking happened. I met another founder, Ryan Marr, and we wanted to start a festival that would be kind of for jazz artists, by jazz artists. Myself, I'm a musician. And so we did it, and I think that impetus or that mission is carried through to today. We've evolved it to continue that at the heart of it, that we're trying to center artists in the curation and in the presentation of the music. Local.
Yeah, very local, which is awesome. Zale?
For us, it was pretty simple too. It was basically a better party. Kind of still is. So, but it kind of grew out of control, in a good way, because we just kind of bringing in friends. And I didn't actually Pickathon. Also, we had a whole bunch of, besides a better party, we had thought of it as at the time I was actually in a bluegrass band, old time band, and we just kind of hated that you had to have that type of festival only. And we're like, okay, we listen to everything. Let's do an everything festival. And that was totally bad idea, because everybody wants to go to a specific festival when you're kind of hardcore in a certain world. We just kind of just grew up that way. I had a day job, and over time, we just pulled in more people, more community, and it grew into what it is today. It's still kind of at the end below it's a better party, but there's just all this kind of like force of good, and we've gotten really incredibly lucky with just amazing musicians that have really blown up over the years, kind of starting there. And now that's happening, and it's kind of like, okay, I guess that's what we do. And but we're just riding a wave, So that's what I would say. It's not like anything more than something that we want to feel good about, and still feel good about it.
Keep feeling good. You're next.
I wasn't around for the founding of the Waterfront Blues Festival, but it started by musicians. John Mazzacco, local musician here in town, at the time in the late 80s, was playing in John Lee Hooker's band, and thought, I could probably get him for a pretty good deal. I'm in the band. Let's throw a festival. And it really was focused on a lot of local and regional acts at the time in 1987, and then turned into the thing that has been growing now for almost 4 decades in 1988. And I think the common thread that we've seen over time, I'm not a musician. My background is in event operations and production. I tried to be a musician twice in my life. 3rd grade, for our Christmas concert in school, they needed a piano player, and I raised my hand. I don't know how to play the piano. And then in middle school, I played the bass guitar for 1 year because, again, no one else played it. So I just raised my hand. But the festival has grown and really is a unique, large-scale event that really still focuses on local and regional as the landscape continues to change. So it started by musicians. Really, as Zale was saying, when you have a genre in your name, it narrows your audience, but I think over the years has grown to far beyond and barely just the blues.
My turn?
Yeah.
All right. Lose Your Mind has had a very interesting trajectory. It originally started as house shows on accident. I didn't know where to place these shows, so I started just booking shows at my house. And eventually the neighbors and the cops did not like that. So, sorry, Dad. My dad's in the audience. So we decided to go above ground with it, and we rented a warehouse, had no idea what we were doing. We were like 23. And we pulled all the permits, figured it out, and I didn't realize I was starting a festival. It started on an accident. And I basically was like, well, I have 2 days of amazing programming. We should probably call it something. And I remember Jared Meese of Tender Loving Empire pulled me aside, and he's like, I was really struggling with finding a name that I wanted to call it. He's like, well, what's this about? I was like, well, it's that moment when you're at a show and you get so connected to the show that you lose your mind. Like your ex doesn't matter, your bills don't matter, whatever stresses you have going on, you are present, and it's very meditative. And it creates this kind of feedback loop with the band as well, that energy. And so we called it Lose Your Mind. And we did warehouses up until 2 years ago, exclusively warehouses, which I think we could all agree that as the city's changed, warehouses are no longer as available or as affordable. It's also very expensive to rent out those spaces and insure them. So we, starting last year, went into more of an old, kind of the old Music Fest Northwest model of doing multi-venue, walkable, inner-city festival. And that's how we've changed over the years. We've gone from house shows to warehouses to proper venues.
That's awesome. So the next question, I'm going to come back to you again, because the trend and status of your sort of current festival in terms of secure location, or you've got some exciting stuff coming up because you made this place and now all these other places are popping up all around you.
Yeah.
You've got probably the best walkable center in the city for a multi-venue festival.
Yeah, definitely. Venue security has always been an issue for us. We've seen so many warehouses just disappear very quickly. In fact, it was very terrifying to start booking a festival early in the year and expect it to happen in the autumn and not know if the warehouse would still be there as you're signing artist contracts. So, that's... Sounds like someone else relates to that too. Location, yes. But, now that we have a venue base to it that's expanding, last year was amazing. It was very incredible to have the Get Down, Lollipop Shop, Swan Dive. Soon we're going to have the new Doug Fir just down this alleyway here. We have Twilight Cafe. Just up the street we have Holocene. It's ripe for a walkable festival. And as we know, the East Side has always been kind of like the musician side of town where all the artists have lived. West Side has plenty too, but over the years, a lot of the house shows I was going to were on this side of the river. And it's really cool to see what's happening in this neighborhood right now. And it's feeling a lot more secure. But, owning a venue is hard. And it still scares me sometimes, like, what if one of these venues falls out? So it's always a possibility.
You can just move it to my house.
I'll see you there.
Sorry, Philip. Let's talk to you. Location seems pretty secure. Any trends you're seeing, or are you on the up? Are you coming down?
All the above. The location is iconically tied to the Waterfront Blues Festival for what we know, and I think it's one of our senses of placemaking that this music festival happens here in the heart of Portland. And I think in terms of what it means to have a secure venue is we're still on a year-to-year contract with the city. The state of downtown Portland is just as spicy as the last 5 years, and so I think we still navigate that now, especially with a big percentage of our fans traveling to the festival. We're still dealing with the perception of what Portland is from our locals and from beyond, but it feels fragile. People want these events, people need it. The city is starting to realize and understand the economic importance, the cultural importance, all of the pieces that y'all are working day in and day out. And yet I think it still feels like on a short runway for what we're doing and how we're doing. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of long-term planning for the sustainability of these iconic events. To see Pickathon for 10 years is like the biggest hurrah. We haven't had anything for 10 years. And no, not even 2 years of a commitment. So it does feel like, well, what happens when XYZ happens? But community buy-in for the festival. When you're talking about where the sentiment of our team is, the sentiment of our fans, it's good, it's strong, it's appreciated. I think the pandemic gave the festival a level of appreciation, and yet we're at an interesting turning point of the festival after 37 years. Sometimes things have to change, whether it's what blues means at a blues festival and who you're booking and how you show up. I mean, we did our initial lineup announcement last week, and people ask, where are the blues? And the reality is blues headliners aren't out there like they used to be. And so I think that we've always been pretty aggressive in expanding the genre, but I think that is an interesting opportunity for us to continue to explore and build on it.
I read a great phrase today that about music, that ubiquity kind of hides the frailty, that everybody just assumes it's like a refrigerator light, it's just going to be there, and because it's always been there. And we have to change that narrative. We need to make sure that we are both ubiquitous and valued and protected. Coming for you, Zale.
Well, we've been fragile our whole lives, and like we've changed many times. So like back in when we started, we were, why don't we be a benefit for KBOO? So we gave kind of like as a full benefit for KBOO back in the day, and at some point I remember like being a KBOO and Michael McGard, who's awesome, he owns one of the dry cleaning shops down there on Broadway now. He's like, yeah, Zale, if you guys failed, you'd ruin KBOO, so you're out. And we're like, what? We didn't know. We thought we were this thing. We're like, so we had to become this private thing. And then we decided, well, we're still going to do good. And so over the years when, the biggest challenge for us is kind of like, there is this very Portland ethic, and I think it's really amazing part of Portland, that it's not just... most things are not just what they are, because like the general business model of a festival is to be kind of horrible. Like you bring really big bands and a couple like not that many, one venue, and you put up the crappiest setup you can because people are going to come see that one band, and that's like the way that everybody makes money. That's not really Portland because we all kind of care. And so we have all this kind of like force of good, and kind of like we have all this community, and we have more non-paid people than paid people. That's a pretty bad model. All of that being said, that's a challenge. So like we're kind of, I mean, again, innovation for us, like thinking of it this as, okay, well, how can that grow and the festival kind of sustain? I think there's a lot of cool ideas there. Like we're starting a nonprofit, kind of like taking on this kind of force of good and kind of splitting the idea of a festival and this kind of impact. And we're excited about it. It seems kind of weirdly American because most other like countries like subsidize the crap out of what we do this stuff. And so like there's just good stuff happening, but that's just not our reality. It's like scary to like, are your people going to get paid? Everything, and on the surface it looks glorious, but just know we are working really hard and it's scary. But we're optimistic and happy and thrilled at the same time.
But paddling as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is terrifying. Yeah. We could say that. It's scary as hell to raise the money that you need to put on a festival, get the sponsors, keep them happy and all that stuff. But I'm excited about our first 10 years. We're centered in a neighborhood. We've branched out. We've had shows at different venues like Alberta Rose. But last year, what really blew it up for me in my mind was taking on a huge, I guess, risk to do something in Mount Tabor Park in the amphitheater. And that was, place matters, the setting matters for a festival, and obviously the music matters. And we've been so focused on the artists and the music, not to the detriment of the experience, because the music is the primary experience for the attendees and the ticket buyers. But when you add in setting and you start to, like you guys know that it really is magical. So we did this concert at Mount Tabor last September 1st, 2023, first night of the festival, and it was really transformative for me to see what the community really responded. They showed up. We had like 1,200 people in the park. It was great, and that led to sort of, bigger risks and expanding the footprint this year, hopefully, and right at that point where we're trying to find all the money. But hopefully we can be a little bit like what you're talking about with multi-venues in a small kind of condensed area. Hopefully the Stark Street area between 76th and 82nd and 90th, 76th and 90th will be really activated for us this year. And so if you come to Montavilla for the Jazz Festival, you're not going to be able to not run into our event. And that's kind of the goal for us. So come and check us out and see if that actually happens. Fingers crossed we can do it.
So each of you, in your own way, is a little bit mad. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you could be selling insurance. You could be doing something nice and steady. You could even be on the tightrope that all musicians are on, but you take it to the next level by carrying all of these things, and it's remarkable. What are the biggest challenges that you face that make you, I know insurance and staff and everything has gone up. Let's go inside out. Let's start with Christina.
Sure. I think the Blues Festival is situated in this mid-size festival. We're big enough that we're big, but we're small enough to lose out to the big festivals. Our conversations every day on repeat are about the cost of talent. It's not that we don't want to pay fair, but paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars doesn't work for a festival like the Blues Festival. And I think the just general understanding of what people want and what you get for that amount of money, your money doesn't go very far. $50,000 doesn't get you what they think a headliner is. And so I think we sit in that cycle of trying to deliver on a musical experience at a price point that makes sense to the fans, and yet we just can't afford acts that we could afford even 3 years ago. I mean, it's gone nuts. So that's a huge reality to us in trying to figure out being a niche festival, but broad enough. We still need 50,000 people to say yes and come to the festival. So you have to have a broad enough appeal, a broad enough lineup, and one that we can afford and write the checks to clear. So that's an evolving piece for us. I think I also, our genre the name is built into our festival, and a lot of folks stop there. They judge it. I don't listen to blues. And so there's an ongoing education piece, and we talked to a lot of our colleagues in jazz world too, like I don't listen to jazz. It's having that be a roadblock, which is so silly, but it's just an educational piece that we're continuing to say, like, well, we know you don't like blues, but check out this bluegrass. And now we're just being far more gutsier than we had been previously to say, screw it, if we're gonna try it, or else the festival goes away, and just like invite new folks in. So I'd say talent is a big reality. Everything is expensive, far more expensive again than people realize. We have a really diehard core team of staff, volunteers. It's this festival family that is crazy, and yet we tap all of ourselves out. So I think the reality of sustaining everyone running on empty and just like on this perpetual cycle is hard. And I carry it personally pretty heavy to know what people like pour into the festival. It's magic, and we try to give them as much magic it is, but people pour a lot into these projects, and it's pretty remarkable.
Zale?
Biggest challenge.
Besides the city planning board in Happy Valley.
Yes, besides having permanent homes. It's trying to balance. Again, I'm going to credit Portland. Like, it's trying to challenge like the ethos of being like out of this world. Like, we wouldn't do this if it was just like a normal Live Nation event. It just would be so soulless. Maybe it would be okay as a day job if somebody was paying you and you didn't have to think about it so much. But it's so not what any of these folks up here are doing. And for us, we're just out of control. And for us, we don't want to not be out of control in terms of like the most people we can plug in doing the best creative work in, design, architecture, building. We're on this beautiful nature, and we want to also take care of our people. Like, that's a huge challenge. And so I kind of boil it down to like this idea that, there's this built-in kind of idea in Portland that things should work for people. They should be good. They should be like this incredible experience. That's a really hard thing to do and actually make it sustainable. So like if if somebody was wealthy and there was willing to just kind of dump money into this, you could do it for a long time.
I daydream about that.
But if you're just like, barely don't know if you're going to get paid for 6 months or something, and you're trying to like think about that for other people, this is a crazy world. And I think you just have to like give lots of props to all these people like going out trying to like care about this stuff so much. And I know there's many other folks out here in the audience who are in the exact same. Keep up the fight, because I think like there's going to be good ideas, and for us it's just we're not down, we're up, we're still standing. So like we're going ahead. It's a challenge to be just standing and going ahead. But dang it, we're doing it.
Portland was the most livable city for years when I grew up here and then after, because everything that was done, all the planning that was done, was about how do we make it better for the people that live here? How do we make transportation better? How do we make housing better? How do we do stuff? And you guys are kind of like the last bastion that is prioritizing that. It just feels like so much of the city leaders have taken it from the top down. Like if we just feed into the top, it'll get to y'all eventually, right? And so there you go, yeah. So props to y'all for keeping the faith. You guys have challenges you'd like to share? It's a safe place.
Sure, go ahead though.
Okay. I think everything that's already been said, yes. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest struggles is, we are a smaller festival. So when we're trying to get things like sponsorship and all that sorted, getting the amount that we need to pay the artists, which we talked about, booking fees increasing and all of that, to get that kind of funding with our, we're about 1,500 people for our festival. And they want to see a larger imprint for that to get the kind of cash that we need. And we're also not a nonprofit, so we can't qualify for a lot of grants. That's one of the limiting facts. Like, I wish there was a lot more grants for for-profit entities. So definitely the funding has been the hardest part in many ways, in addition to things like permitting and locations shifting around, and just the general cost of everything increasing. Porta potties went up substantially. You don't think that's going to be your make or break it point, but they did.
You have 100 porta potties?
Yeah, like you're talking to the porta potty guy on the phone, you're like, really? All right. And also just, I think a big struggle for us has always been that we're just grassroots as well. Like Pickathon and all of that. I'm not classically trained in festival organizing. And so it took us a while to, I had no idea how to pull these permits. I just went down to City Hall and said, I want to do this. And I was stubborn and I was young, still am, but, I was very young and just very passionate. And I figured it out. And we broke a lot of laws, I think, on accident. But as soon as we realized, we corrected it. I promise you. And, insurance, it was very hard for us to get liquor liability insurance for a warehouse with OLCC limitations. OLCC is a limitation as well. There's a lot. I could go on for a long time about all the limitations of a festival, but...
Buy this woman a hard drink later and she'll keep going. There we go.
Tip your bartender well, please. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Seriously. Bring us home.
Okay, yeah. Challenges. I think everything that has been said, I just wanted to note that, it's really, interesting to think for Blues Fest, 50,000 people is a small festival, which it is when you think about, Jazz Fest, New Orleans, all the other things. So it's really cool to hear that perspective. We're, not much over 2,000 people from last year. And most of that was at the concert at Mount Tabor Park. So we're trying to push get to that 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 range. How big is Pickathon?
We are around 5,000, probably going up about 8,500 if over time.
Amazing. So small is just like
we are about. We could put about 50,000 in there, but that's another irrational thing that we decided that we don't want to do.
Right. And I guess I've heard that Blues Fest started, and you said 87. I talked to somebody who's involved way back. 300 people.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just a range of experiences, but the same challenges that everybody are saying that we have. There was something in your question in the email about like noise variance and neighbors, and so that didn't resonate for me. I think the challenges are more like having that endurance, having the hope, because when you're like 30 days out and you are trying to find the money to cover the things that you've signed, there's a little bit of that every year. And I think I'm crazy for always just telling myself that we will find a way. It will happen. And sometimes things go on the credit card and you're not getting paid back until the end of the year, but you do find a way. So I think that's, everything that I've learned has been, like you said, from, DIY. But we learned a lot. There's a lot of spreadsheets. A lot of dealing with the city, and it's fun to share that. So I would just say, I know a lot of artists are here to hear about how to like get in and get on the bill for a festival. But if anybody out there is wild and crazy enough to want to start their own festival, like happy to share like those details of how we started, how I start, all the things you need to know, the people you need to talk to at the city, at the OLCC. I have a funny story of riding a small scooter across the Hawthorne Bridge to get to get to Oni to get that OLCC permit signed on the last day of the deadline, and then telling me I had to ride that little scooter all the way out to Milwaukee to the OLCC to pay the check because they wouldn't take it, and with no cell phone, and that's a good one. I'll tell after.
Okay, so he needs a drink too. Who here has even thought about maybe putting together a festival? I think Andre's hand up more than anybody's. Do you want to say?
I want to say a couple of things. That a word that I haven't heard tonight is community. And one thing that everybody hasn't resonated, but it is so impressive to think about how you all are building community. And you're getting people to come together over a shared purpose. And how are you working on keeping that community connected? I mean, it's great to see the email or the Instagram post like a couple weeks before you announce something, but community is so much a big part of what has made Portland so special to so many people. And I'd love to hear more about how your festivals are part of a constellation of organizations that are looking to build stronger communities using music and gatherings as the heart of that.
Yeah, community building is in our tagline. So we say community building in jazz, and that started in the second year when we were trying to find a way to leverage community support for something that has such a small percentage of the sort of listening audience in terms of jazz. If you think like Nielsen ratings, that kind of thing. And we did that through some education programs in the community, in the schools. Those have evolved. We have a veteran artist from last year's residency, Yeti, from a project that we did that ended up, she was at the concert at Mount Tabor. So it was talking to families, people in the community, trying to figure out ways to programs that would impact the community, and get people to kind of like go, okay, I'm going to go to this festival because these guys are doing good stuff in the neighborhood. Just today I had my second business forum in Montavilla. I've invited like every business owner that I know to come and just say, what do you want the festival to look like? And like, what would you do in your business to make, it could be anything. It could be like a pie eating contest at Bipartisan or something. Whatever you want, do that. We're going to do our concerts and we'll try to like really activate. And so building community is definitely central. Does that answer the question? No.
Yeah, and our street music program, working with Neil, is trying to sort of connect the dots, make a through line of music all through the summer that kind of leads into that, but that is continually gathering people around music. So it's a great priority for everybody to have.
I think just following up a little bit on what Zale was saying earlier, but also what you were asking, Andre, I think we are all working on festivals that have a soul, and the soul is built by other people, not just us, and that is the community building. I spend more time on community building and projects that don't actually sell more tickets or help with the production of the festival or do it, but that is the festival. The people are the festival, the ideas that are the festival, the people that have been to more festivals than I have and tell me about how it used to be in this one time when this happened and so. And it's continuing to be intentional, continuing to choose community and prioritize it. Because as soon as we put on our full run this as a business hat, you lose the sense of community. And any business advisor would say, put your business hat back on. And some reason we just keep taking it off and we try to straddle our heart with our pocketbooks, and the heart is the community. And I think that's why we get out of bed day after day and are standing up and doing this, is because that's what fills us, finding meaningful partnerships with Friends of Noise and finding places to plug it in. It's like a bingo card that we geek out on, is how many folks can we get involved in the festival at once, which is maddening, but also community.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody said the name, but there are corporate interests that would like to come in and create festivals, and that carries with it some challenges. Have any of you felt that challenge, or are you concerned about it?
No. I mean, people try to, but we always say you gotta have a reason to be at our festival. Like we wrestled with last year. We wrestled with Toyota. We're like, okay, we took forever, but they had the first commercial. They had the first hydrogen generator. We're like, okay, that's cool. We like that. Like, can we run a stage off of it? And we spent a lot of time with very cool, geeky people in Toyota who actually, they didn't quite get it. They didn't know we had to run it at night. We're like, yeah, it runs all night. We need hydrogen all night because we have lights. But we got pretty close. And so, like, for us, I think it's these events, like, survive off that stuff. But I think it's still also important to say, like, what's the story here? What are you doing? Is this like, when we got rid of all the plastic cups, we worked with Clean Canteen. We're like, okay, we gotta get rid of like all plastic, and they were totally into it. And so, like, anything we can find that turns into a story that people can actually relate to, I think is a really great idea. And I do think there's a ton of room to work with people. It's just about being innovative and not being gross.
There's the takeaway. What about Live Nations festivals?
They're not the community festivals, I'll tell you
No,
that.
yeah. I haven't had any. We're a little bit insulated from that, maybe not completely, but slightly, because we're contracting. We're sort of a developing festival for local artists, and these artists can be like, have been like Mel Brown, Chris Brown, people that are Damo Branch that are in, right now texting with Damo today. He's in Prague with Wynton Marsalis's band. Like, these are our local artists that are at the highest level, but we're still just dealing with local artists. So, and I should remove the just. But I do know that I know something about another festival organizer who has been cut out of negotiations with Providence Park, trying to expand what they're doing. So, I mean, it is having an impact right now when they lock down the venues, and you can't operate. You can't pick your dates. So it's like, these are Live Nation dates, Portland. Everybody else, you get the scraps. That's what I've seen.
You should go. We have stories.
Yeah. We just this year alone probably have lost 6, 8, 10 headliner offers to Live Nation radius clauses, or totally being outpriced to an unreasonable offer. We offer $75,000, which would be a fair price. They're offering $225,000. And at that point, I can't play, and that's a problem of our scale, is that we have headliners on our bill that are in these hundreds of thousands of dollars, and half of our bill still is local and regional. So Live Nation is a reality, but it's in every meeting agenda of working around it. Who do we lose? How do we work around? So it is, I would say, even in the last 12 months, far more prevalent than it has been for the last 6-7 years, in terms of how many acts we're losing to Live Nation.
Yeah, and now having planted Farewell Fest in the middle of the state,
Yes.
dead center in the state. I've already heard from the Sisters Folk Festival, from Country Fest, from a bunch of different locally created festivals that they're either giving up or they've lost acts that they've cultivated and built a following for that now they can't book because they've been identified. So it's definitely a thing.
Yeah. And I think music fans, in theory, especially Portlanders, you want to think that they're going to support local, and yet they're still going to go see the band they want to see. Mm-hmm. So they'll go to a Live Nation show because it's a great band and it's a great act. And if we try to put those ticket prices back on to our fans and do it, it doesn't make sense. So it's real. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I have.
Do you know the answer?
Oh no, but I mean, I only have Farewell Festival is kind of like Live Nation's version, one of Live Nation's versions of Pickathon. Uh-huh. Many of those artists have played Pickathon or would be playing Pickathon. They have just an incredibly unfair advantage. We have a slightly other. I have a little weird take on this, which is they have an advantage of just going straight up the middle, right? They're gonna make money on the tickets. They make money on everything. They make money on the tours, the merch. And so, they can almost make no money on the bookings and make tons of money anyways. And so, it's kind of like it's like a overwhelming market force to put everybody that you have to see. You got to go to this festival. The only advantages that all of us have up here is that we're way weirder, and people like it. There's something that they don't have, and that goes back to what Andre said on community. You can't make something like Live Nation has zero idea how to make Pickathon work. They don't have a clue what we're doing. And they probably wouldn't even buy us because they're like, I don't even know. That's way too involved there. And so, I think that is kind of the resilience of why Live Nation has a hard time. There's a lot of frontal assaults, but we're still standing.
Super quick. Is there a location or a website or some sort of connective tissue that connects all of you together with each other? I mean, I know so many people that love Oregon because Oregon is Oregon. And I know people that would love to go to Pickathon, would love to go to Blues Festival, would love to go to...
Lose your mind.
Lose your mind.
Lose your mind. Sorry. And would love to go to a Montavilla Jazz Festival if they only knew that all these things were available in a way. I mean, is there some sort of combined...
We will shortly be releasing our venue and festival directory. That'll be full featured, video inclusive directory listings that we'll be also embedding on Travel Portland, on Travel Oregon, on a bunch of different other websites to make sure that member venues and festivals are promoted broadly. And in terms of gathering information too, we're also setting up a blog, and you guys have all been gracious in talking about how you'd love to sort of, answer questions or things. I would challenge each of you to say, if we were to collect up questions from people, maybe work together and make an FAQ for the people silly enough to try and start their own festivals.
Do it.
Because
do it.
But no, I think it's super exciting, and it's amazing to have these people. Do we have other questions from the audience? Yes, we got one right here. Do you want to take that?
Thank you. I was thinking while we're on the commercial side of things, not so much the competition, but you mentioned the challenge of attracting commercial sponsors,
Yeah.
corporate sponsors, and I thought I would ask, what have been some wins in sponsorship pairings, and how have you delivered value to your sponsors that keeps them coming back, or that they felt like was a win?
I mean, I could speak for Lose Your Mind. You know, alcohol has always been the big one, unfortunately. You know, like that's they have so much money, and it's a music festival. You're selling lots of drinks. It's an entire weekend. You know, people like to drink while they see live music, and it has been a struggle to get away from that and kind of do like things like apparel or, you know, like Toyota or anything like that. Like Toyota's not going to sponsor Lose Your Mind. There's not a reason for them to have, you know, 4Runners out here. You can walk everywhere. You can drive around in your 4Runner.
You have power too.
And we get power too. We'll power Lollipop Shop off of hydrogen. But yeah, like, you know, alcohol's been a big one. You know, we didn't have any idea how to get sponsors initially, and when we first did sponsorship for Lose Your Mind, I also still do almost all of Lose Your Mind single-handedly. I mean, there's a lot of people, like, also shout out to Brian back here doing sound. Brian is my co-founder for Lose Your Mind and also my business partner here at Lollipop Shop. But, you know, Brian steps in and does all the sound and production work. I do the booking and sponsorship and marketing. And, you know, I had no idea how to do sponsorship when I started. But somehow I learned how to do a deck, and I made my own deck. It was very silly looking, and I came up with cute little names and made tiers, and I convinced people to give me money. But it was that, but our first year, 3 years, we did only Oregon-based sponsors, which was cute, but there wasn't enough money there. You know, we were really anti-big corporations. But then we realized, you know what, PBR does have a lot of money, and they are investing in music. So is Red Bull. And there's a way to do it that's not sacrificing your brand. That can be very collaborative. You know, people are going to drink tall boys at your events. So why not partner with people that you're selling their product already? You can give them the numbers. You have them. So that was one of the things that I learned kind of very quickly. And still to this day, it's the alcohol sector that really backs us. And I'm trying to get more creative with it. But again, I've been very self-taught, and I don't know always who to write those emails to. Sometimes it's just an info at, you know, on their website, just shooting in the dark, hoping that someone emails you back because they're excited about it. And now we have enough history that we can name drop larger names to get other sponsors too. That's really helpful as well.
Other folks have questions?
Corporate sponsorship is a big part of the Blues Festival. Simply to underwrite expenses as it is, but for us, just the scale is pretty big and needs to be bigger and should be bigger. Every single partnership is different, which makes it super inefficient, but also why our retention is 98% as all of our sponsors come back is because we pick up a phone. I took a call today from a guy who owns a manufacturing company of wooden pallets, and he wants to sponsor the Blues Festival. Yeah, it's awesome. But you have to connect the dots about why it makes sense and build out something between marketing deliverables, hospitality. Everybody still wants free tickets and a fun party. The community goodwill and the association, they care about what our brand is doing in the community. And then you have to build a story and a package for every single person you talk to year after year. And so you are always working. I think that's our key to success, is that there isn't like a buy it now, add it to your cart really option. We meet them where they want to be or create ideas that they didn't even know because it makes us look good. And also we exercise a ton of restraint of not partnering with people, of finding the right fit. If like Toyota feels funny to you, then it probably feels funny. So it's knowing when to say no and not just chase the dollar, but have integrity in your brand and your festival, to not just take the money when the credit card bill comes and you're like, well, I would like to take the money. It's knowing when to draw the line. But I would say it's one of the things that keeps me up the most at night is just the personal responsibility I feel to our sponsors. And I also will think people think the festival is underwritten far more by corporate sponsors than it is. It's only about 20% of our festival, and it should be higher. And you look at some of these other major festivals, 20% is nice, but it could and should be a lot of it should be bigger. And Oregon businesses don't have a big culture of of investment. We have big companies here. We have Intel, Nike, you have all these apparel companies, and you don't see them sponsoring events. It is not in their corporate identity to say, hey, here's $150,000 every year to do the thing that is good for our employees, employee recruitment and retention. Like you were saying, people move here because they love it. Like, it's amazing. And yet we go $5,000 at a time. We don't get any big bites. We are just going a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I have one other spin. I'd say, like, our history has been kind of weird with sponsorship. We kind of created a ginormous rat hole. We're still in that one. We have one of the largest content kind of operations for a festival. We do more shooting and film than Coachella. Like, it's ridiculous, right? That's totally ridiculous, but we love it. We thought, well, why don't we just scale the festival? And then, one of the things that worked for a while was we could do that. Now that kind of social media worlds have gotten so good at advertising on their platforms, they don't need you to sponsor. You don't need to sponsor anyone's content because you'll just run on 25-year-olds who like coffee in Portland, and you'll run on everyone's content, and it's so good, it's so easy, it's so cheap. So now I kind of see the world as we're just trying to kind of double down on we're doing things that have impact, and if you want to be part of that and you want to be part of this story, great. Come on, let's bring you on. And in all of this, the number one thing is to play advertising dude on TV. None of us are advertising people. No. But you got to play one on TV. And I always say that. We got whatever you're doing, play it on TV.
I got something about sponsorships. So, we just knocked on doors. We went to every business on the street, and some people slammed the door in our face. Get out of here! Go into a restaurant and they're trying to do their restaurant thing. It's totally rude what we did, but it was very thrilling to have somebody say yes, we'll sponsor. And this was tiny amounts. Our first festival was $6,000 was the total cost. It's grown a lot, so that was pretty thrilling to get those people just to say yes. But what we're hearing, from there's a lot of professional development on the stage, and it's pretty cool to hear about. So I know I'm going to be having questions for these guys.
They can all be had for a drink. I think we've established that. One thing, the now governor, I've known her for a number of years, and in talking with her and approaching to ask for some money, she said, yeah, that's not enough for us to pay attention to. And I said, okay, well, as a 501c3, could I approach you and ask for a big pot of money to do something like support festivals? She said, yes, come back to us. Our motto is independent together. We are all stronger if we stand together. And I'm carrying a lot of the freight. I want to make everybody successful. Any other questions? Oh, look, there's some in the back there. You there.
Oh.
You were just talking about, I've heard someone mention that corporate sponsorships kind of cover 20%, I think, at the Blues Fest. So the first part of my question is that pretty consistent with the other festivals? Is corporate sponsorship about 20% of the other three festivals represented on the stage? And then if you're a nonprofit, I think you can look for grants, but how do you make up the rest of that? You've got concessions, you've got ticket sales, what does that whole picture of funding look like? Is that something you can answer?
I mean, I guess one of the things that changed for us, that going back to the growth of Lose Your Mind, how it's changed over the years, is we used to be able to run concessions and keep all the profit on that. Now that we've moved into a venue format, we don't keep the bar anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's been a difficult switch for us. And also we have to work with several different bar owners now to get these corporate sponsorships in there. Regarding how the percentage breakdown is of corporate versus local sponsorship, that's tough because it's varied every year so much. But I'd say it's almost, at this point it's probably 60-40 for Lose Your Mind, being corporate 60. But also something that we haven't touched about a lot either too is for so much of this, when I email a company asking for sponsorship, they're like, well, we can't give you money, but we can give you a lot of product. And, the in-kind can go a long way, but also you're kind of like, well, I was asking for $5K, but, anything would really help. But, I'll take chia seeds, and put them in the artist bag. Like, we've had so many random products, I swear. The year that weed got legalized, that was funny. We had so much free weed for everyone, which was still not quite figured out with the OCC yet, but we figured it out. But yeah, in-kind is huge to us as well for being able to offer excellent hospitality to our artists, to our sponsors, to our volunteers. But yeah, there's different levels of support.
Not even close to 20% for us. It's tiny. And in corporate sponsorships, we're talking some of the local business, small businesses are corporations, but we're not talking about big corporations.
When I say corporate sponsors, I mean anyone that's giving me money for some sort of marketing, hospitality, goodwill. Yeah, and that is not buying a ticket. Some sort of business.
Okay, that's. Thank you.
That was my number.
Yeah, and it's way less for us. So the pots are contributed income and earned income, and contributed income could be grants from the state of Oregon, from the city, from the county, from foundations, private foundations. Because we're a 501c3, we can ask for those. Contributed income also includes money from our donors who donate to our nonprofit at like a year-end campaign or come to a fundraiser. And then there's, of course, earned income is ticket sales, booze sales, merch sales, and sponsorships. So that's kind of the buckets. And if you have the buckets and they're all, I guess everybody would have, every event's going to have a different sort of kind of profile. But my philosophy is balance, diversity is probably really the best way to go.
Did you start with a nonprofit, or did you figure out that you had access to those grants after you got going?
We were a fiscally sponsored project of a nonprofit, so we always could receive funds from people. It was just dependent who they were writing the check to, and then 3 years in, we became incorporated as our own nonprofit, and then started to learn the grants writing game, and that's a whole nother TED Talk.
With lots of cocktails. Any other questions? We're just about out of time. Any other last? We got a couple. Okay. Okay, you already asked one. How about you? Come here. Get on the video.
Maybe just talk about your general artist curation process.
For Lose Your Mind, I guess I haven't talked about too much that we have a targeted kind of genre spectrum. We originally started as kind of like a psych, garage, punk, rock and roll festival. We've broadened a little bit, but I think we still very much so have that vein to us. It's very stylized, our booking is. So I'm looking for bands in kind of that corner for the most part. We have done things like like a couple years ago we partnered with The Thesis and we had a hip hop stage, and that was really incredible. But what we were noticing too with that though is like just the size of our festival, the price of our ticket, having one stage at Swan Dive that was hip hop for one night wasn't enough to entice people to buy a ticket for the weekend. So I kind of I love hip hop. I love so many different genres. I kind of went back to being more of back into our original booking format of kind of having more specific genres that I focus on. We have a very dedicated audience that love those genres, and it's a built-in community and a built-in, customer. So I keep it in that corner now, and I want to diversify more as we have more venue options. We could do bigger things. I don't think we'll be using Doug for this year, but I'm hoping to add that into the fold for next year when they open just right there at the end of this alleyway. But as we get more venues, we'll have more opportunity to diversify how many genres we work with. But for me, it's always been very stylized and mostly what I just love listening to. I'm an obsessive listener. And if I'm just playing a record on repeat, I'm like, I gotta get this band. I don't care how I do it. I'll figure it out, and it's worked, so it's fun.
Do you have an application process in general, or is there timelines you think
about?
So a lot of we do open applications. It's just a Google form that we put on our website. It's actually going to go up this week. We're an autumn festival, so I'm in the throes of booking right now. But for the most part, it's a combination of artist submissions, but I just do a lot of outreach. I know what I want. I know what 30 bands kind of work together in a certain way and the direction I'm trying to go with it. So, it's not to say don't just randomly submit. I pulled a lot from submissions, but I probably already know your band if I'm going to book it. I don't find a whole lot of just new random stuff all the time.
We're weird. We have kind of always been genreless in a weird way. Although I think we started where we had connections. Definitely Americana was where we had connections, and kind of as other genres and really it's agents, like they kind of got more comfortable. We had kind of seminal moments where the Avett Brothers played, and that was like a major thing for us. And now agents were like, oh, we'll send you this agent. And then over time we've had, Future Islands and War on Drugs and Kamasi Washington and all these folks in different, genres kind of start their big ascent at the festival. And so for us, it's been about kind of like curating, feeling confident. And it's not, I will 100% defray intelligence here, because we are the biggest open source booking. We count on the smartest people that we know in every part of the globe. And we're not afraid to pull regional all-stars. We like to say this is if you really love it, if it's the Elvis of some weird music scene, and even if it's not big, when somebody else sees it and they think they hate that, they're going to be confused because they're going to walk away. I kind of like that. I thought I hated that. And so that's kind of been our North Star. But it's, I think the passion is really the kind of key thread here. Is what are you passionate about?
I think our curation, we kind of straddle two different things. As booking headliners is a different beast in that it tends to really focus on some element of ticket sales, of what's going to kind of carry the weight. And where we find probably more joy is local and regional, and the rest, we have 100 acts that we usually book, and it's the 80 other folks that we get to book. Our artistic director always says that you need buzz before you find us. Don't send us a press kit. We're not going to look at it. You need to be cool wherever you are. Be the Elvis of North Portland or whatever it is have your own buzz. And so by the time we hear about you, we've already heard you. So it is you already know who you want. We may not know who we want, but you've got to have your own thing. Don't pitch us if you have never done a thing. And I would say we don't have an open application process. But it feels like our email inboxes are an open application process. But we love ideas. There's trusted friends, and I think we're getting gutsier in who we're booking and what we're doing. I think when we booked Robert Plant in 2013, it actually felt risky. Do people know Led Zeppelin? How's this going to feel with the blues crowd? And then you're like, okay, this is great. So you kind of figure it out. But be great where you're at as a musician. Create your own buzz. When your name comes across our kind of, brainstorming sessions, that's when it is. We can't create the buzz for you. You already have to have your buzz.
I have to jump in on this. It's totally different what we do than what's been explained. We used to do sort of a curated model, but we have a newer process. We've always had an application, but it was buried on our website. And this year we did an open call and press release. Lots of, reminding the community to apply. My main problem is that I know almost everybody in this small community of jazz musicians, almost everybody. That's actually wrong, because once I looked at the 52 applications we got, the submission ended in January, there was a lot of stuff that there was no way I would have ever known about. So we're actually looking for anything that is, Portland-based, creative, new music, and diverse and anything like that. And I have to insulate myself from that decision-making process to a degree because of the relationships that I have in the community. Because then I'm just getting everybody either hates me or is always hitting me up for for gigs. So we have a panel this year that is people who led ensembles at the last year's festival, and they're not publicized who they are. I mean, you could guess because there was about 12 or 13 leaders last year, but there's a panel of an unnamed number of them that are reviewing scoring the applications, and then we'll go look at the numbers, look at the venues we have. So it's a very new thing for us, and I'm very excited about it. So I wanted to
really cool.
share that.
All of those are different and work.
We'll see if it works.
Can I also bring up something around booking? It's not just the festival; it's also with venues. Booking boundaries. That's something I really struggle with a lot. People will text me all the time. They will DM me on my personal Instagram. They find really interesting ways to get in touch with you, and like look for the email on the website. Try to respect those things. Like, I know you've had a few beers. It's 2 a.m. You have a great idea. Do not text me about it. You just woke me up, and that's like 5 points off immediately. Yeah. It's very hard and very exhausting when you do know a large amount of musicians and everyone is really well intentioned and excited, but don't I had a band call me at 3 a.m. from California because they wanted to book a show. And I told them to get lost pretty hard, but just keep that in mind. There are we can't work all the time, and you can't have access to us all of the time, especially if you're really hands-on and a smaller festival, some of us up here. It can be really challenging to always be kind of approached.
There's a cutoff for texting.
Yeah.
And we hope too. We hope too that our performing act directory allows you to go. Okay, here's an easy way. I'm sitting. I'm comfortable. I'm not asleep. I can go and review some stuff. So I think we need to bring our musical skills out to the buyers, including these folks, in a way that makes it really easy for them to find us, rather than waking them up.
Yeah.
We are, let's see, okay, Achilles, your last one on the docket. What do you got?
I was going to say, well, you guys consider the most amazing Latin music, Caribbean music. You can tell you about it.
Talk to me.
I'm going to approach you guys.
Yeah. In fact, we need an amazing Latin music festival in this town, and I'm calling you out, son. All right? Okay, everybody, these guys are going to stay here. They can all be had for a drink. Buy them some cocktails. Thank you so much. Everybody stick around. We got another hour of mingling, and this is what community looks like, all right? So talk to people you don't know. Nobody here wants to kill your dreams. Everybody wants to tell you you're awesome. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mir.
Good job, guys.
Good job. Nice panel. You guys played it on the
You are too. Thank you.